John Wayne, the epitome of rugged masculinity, was more of a symbol than an actor. With his towering frame, cowboy hat, and steely gaze, he became the face of American westerns. But let's be honest, his acting was as stiff as a wooden board. His dialogue delivery often felt forced, and his emotional range was about as deep as a puddle in the desert. Yet, John Wayne didn't need to act, he just needed to be. Directors used him as a larger-than-life figure, a mythic hero who embodied the American spirit. His quiet authority and magnetic presence made him unforgettable. Wayne's fame wasn't built on his ability to cry on cue or deliver Shakespearean monologues. It was built on his ability to stand tall, look tough, and inspire audiences with his sheer aura. In a way, John Wayne proved that sometimes it's not about talent. It's about the myth you create. Doris Day was the queen of wholesomeness, with her blonde curls, bright smile, and squeaky clean image. She was the embodiment of 1950s optimism. But her acting? Well, let's just say it wasn't exactly groundbreaking. Critics often called her performances one-note, lacking the emotional depth needed to truly captivate audiences. But Doris Day didn't need to be Meryl Streep to become a star. Her appeal lay in her likability and her ability to sell a perfect, sugar-coated version of life. She was a good singer, sure, but her acting was more about charm than skill. Behind the scenes, her life was far from perfect, plagued by abusive marriages and personal turmoil. Yet, Hollywood adored her because she represented a fantasy, a dream of happiness and purity. Doris Day's fame is a testament to the power of image over talent. Rock Hudson was the ultimate Hollywood heartthrob, tall, handsome, and impossibly charming. But when it came to acting, he was no Daniel Day-Lewis. Critics often pointed out his limited range, and he was never going to win an Oscar for his performances. So, how did he become one of the biggest stars of his time? Simple. He was an illusion. Rock Hudson's smile, his confidence, and his perfect heterosexual image captivated audiences. But here's the twist. Hudson was gay, a fact he hid for years to maintain his stardom. His career was built on a carefully crafted persona, not his acting chops. Rock Hudson's story is a fascinating look at how Hollywood's obsession with image often overshadowed talent. Lana Turner was the definition of Hollywood glamour. With her stunning looks and seductive allure, she became one of the most iconic actresses of her time. But her acting? Let's just say it wasn't her strong suit. Her performances were often criticized as flat and unconvincing, relying more on her beauty than her talent. Yet, Hollywood didn't care. They turned her into a sex symbol, capitalizing on her looks to sell tickets. Turner's personal life was just as dramatic as her films. She was at the center of a shocking murder trial involving her abusive lover. While her acting may not have been memorable, her image and the scandals surrounding her kept her in the spotlight. Tab Hunter was a classic 1950s heartthrob, blonde, clean-cut, and as American as apple pie. But when it came to acting, he was far from impressive. Critics often called his performances wooden and uninspired. So, how did he become a household name? It wasn't his talent, it was his image. Tab Hunter was the perfect poster boy for teenage magazines, and Hollywood loved him for it. Behind the scenes, Hunter was hiding a secret. He was gay. In an industry that demanded silence, he kept his truth hidden for years. His story is a fascinating look at how Hollywood prioritized marketability over talent, and how stars like Hunter survived by playing the game. Esther Williams wasn't an actress, she was a swimmer. An Olympic-level athlete, Williams became a movie star because Hollywood wanted to sell an image of perfection. Her films, like Bathing Beauty, were built around her ability to glide through water like a goddess. But when it came to acting, she was often stiff and unconvincing. Hollywood didn't care. They created an entire genre, the aquatic musical, just for her. Williams' fame wasn't about her acting skills. It was about the spectacle she provided. She was the embodiment of Hollywood's obsession with fantasy over substance. Tony Curtis had the looks, the charm, and the smoldering eyes that made him every woman's dream in the 1950s. But his acting? Well, let's just say it wasn't his strong suit. Curtis had a limited range and a stiff delivery, but he made up for it with his magnetic presence. He starred in iconic films like Some Like It Hot, but his appeal was more about his charisma than his talent. Behind the scenes, Curtis struggled with personal demons, including a tumultuous marriage and inner conflicts. His story is a reminder that Hollywood often valued image over depth. Jane Russell was the definition of sultry, with her curves and boldness lighting up the screen in films like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. But her acting? It was often stiff and forced. Hollywood didn't care. They wanted her to exude sex appeal, not deliver Oscar-worthy performances. Russell's personal life was just as dramatic as her roles, filled with passion and turmoil. She was a product of a system that valued beauty over talent, and her career is a testament to Hollywood's obsession with looks. Glenn Ford was the reliable leading man, always there to hold the screen with his solid presence. But when it came to emotional depth, he fell short. Ford's performances were often criticized for lacking range, but he continued to land major roles because of his consistency and physical appeal. His story shows how Hollywood used an actor's reliability to keep them in the game, even when talent was lacking. Robert Taylor was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, but his acting was often as wooden as a plank. Despite starring in epic films, his performances rarely broke out of the stoic, unemotional mold. Hollywood sold him as a dashing hero, prioritizing his looks over his talent. Taylor's career is a perfect example of how the studio system built stars, even when acting skills were lacking. And Sheridan was Hollywood's ultimate oomph girl, a title that perfectly encapsulated her sultry presence and magnetic charm. With her smoky eyes, sharp wit, and undeniable allure, Sheridan became a symbol of 1940s glamour. But let's be real, her acting wasn't exactly groundbreaking. While she had a knack for playing tough, street-smart women with a heart of gold, her performances often lacked the emotional depth needed to truly resonate with audiences. Critics frequently pointed out her inconsistency, noting that her acting rarely went beyond surface-level charm. So, how did Sheridan become a star? It wasn't her ability to deliver tear-jerking monologues or transform into complex characters. It was her presence. Sheridan had a way of lighting up the screen with just a glance, a smirk, or a perfectly timed one-liner. Hollywood adored her because she embodied a specific kind of fantasy, the kind where a woman could be both tough and tender, both glamorous and relatable. Films like Angels with Dirty Faces showcased her ability to play the bad girl with a heart, but they didn't demand much from her in terms of acting range. Behind the scenes, Sheridan was far more than just a pretty face. She was fiercely independent, a quality that set her apart in an industry that often treated women as mere commodities. She fought for better roles and even took control of her career by producing her own films, a rare move for actresses at the time. Yet, despite her efforts, Hollywood rarely allowed her to stretch her acting muscles. They wanted her to be the oomph girl, not a serious actress. Sheridan's story is a bittersweet reminder of how Hollywood often prioritized image over talent. She was beloved not for her acting skills, but for her ability to captivate audiences with her charisma and beauty. Her legacy is one of resilience and charm, proving that sometimes being unforgettable has little to do with talent and everything to do with the magic you bring to the screen. George Raft was the epitome of Hollywood's tough guy. With his slicked back hair, piercing gaze, and swaggering walk, he looked like he stepped straight out of a gangster film. And that's exactly what Hollywood wanted. Raft's acting, however, was another story. Critics often described his performances as flat, robotic, and lacking emotional depth. But here's the twist: nobody cared. George Raft didn't need to act. He just needed to look the part. Raft's career was built on his image. Whether he was playing a mobster in the Roaring Twenties or a street-smart hustler in A Drive-By Night, he brought an authenticity to his roles that had less to do with acting and more to do with his real-life persona. Rumor has it that Raft had actual ties to organized crime, which added an extra layer of credibility to his on-screen characters. Hollywood loved him because he didn't just play a tough guy. He was a tough guy. But Raft's lack of acting talent didn't hold him back. In fact, it became his greatest asset. Directors knew that casting Raft meant they were getting a man who could command the screen with his presence alone. His performances weren't about delivering nuanced emotions or complex character arcs. They were about exuding confidence, danger, and raw masculinity. Audiences loved him because he was the real deal, a man who didn't need to pretend to be tough. Behind the scenes, Raph's life was just as dramatic as his films. His rumored connections to the mob kept him in the limelight, but they also added a layer of danger to his career. While other actors were honing their craft, Raph was navigating a world where image and reputation mattered more than talent. His story is a fascinating look at how Hollywood's obsession with persona could turn even the most limited actor into a star. George Raph's legacy is a testament to the power of image. He didn't need to be a great actor to become a Hollywood icon. He just needed to be George Raft. His career is a reminder that in the golden age of Hollywood, sometimes being unforgettable had nothing to do with talent and everything to do with the myth you created.